There are moments when you walk into a room, say nothing, and yet feel the invisible weight of judgment press against your chest. Eyes turn, not because you've done anything, but because your presence disrupts something subtle in the atmosphere. Some people smile nervously. Others seem irritated without reason. You sense it immediately. They've already decided who you are. But deep down, you know they're wrong. Why do certain souls seem to provoke misunderstanding wherever they go? Why does authenticity, in its rawest form, often appear threatening to the ordinary? Carl Jung might have said it's because your energy, or what he called your psychic field, operates on a frequency most people haven't tuned into yet. Your aura, in psychological terms, is rare, and rarity unsettles the collective. Most people are wired to find comfort in predictability. They crave patterns that make sense, faces that smile at the right time, tones that conform to expectation, personalities that fit familiar boxes. But when someone carries an uncommon psychological vibration, when their demeanor, intensity, or silence doesn't follow the script, it creates dissonance in the collective psyche. People don't know how to read you, so they project onto you instead. They might call you cold when you're merely introspective. They might think you're arrogant when you're simply self-contained. They might sense mystery and mistake it for manipulation. Jung understood this paradox intimately. He wrote of the individuated person, the one who has integrated shadow and light, who no longer depends on external validation for identity. To the unindividuated masses, such a person appears different, even dangerous, not because they are malicious, but because they mirror back the parts of others that remain unacknowledged. Your presence, therefore, becomes a psychological mirror, one that reflects their hidden conflicts and contradictions. It's not that you're difficult to read, it's that people are afraid to read what your presence reveals in themselves. Picture this: you're standing among a group of acquaintances, everyone talking over one another in the usual surface-level rhythm of social chatter. You contribute once or twice, but then you retreat into quiet observation. You're not withdrawn, you're simply perceiving. Yet the silence you carry feels louder than anyone's words. People glance your way, trying to decode your stillness. They feel something, but they can't name it. The human mind dislikes the undefined, so it fills the gap with assumption. She's aloof. He's judging us. They think they're better. This misreading is not a reflection of your flaw, but a revelation of their discomfort. The truth? You carry an uncommon psychological transparency. Your inner world is not hidden behind habitual masks, and that unsettles those who rely on theirs. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "And those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music." That is precisely what it means to have a rare aura. You move to a rhythm that others cannot hear. Your life unfolds in a psychological register most people have not yet developed ears for. This is both a gift and a curse. It grants you insight, empathy, and intuition that others envy but can't fully trust. And because they can't name what they feel around you, they invent stories, fictions to stabilize the unease your authenticity creates. They misread your silence as distance, your confidence as arrogance, your empathy as strategy. But here lies the deeper truth. When the world misreads you, it's often a sign that you're beginning to live in alignment with your deeper self rather than society's reflection of it. The path of individuation, Jung taught, is never one of comfort. It's one of confrontation, solitude, and ultimately liberation. And perhaps the reason people misread you is because you no longer belong entirely to their story. If you've ever wondered why people react so strangely to you, why one person seems inexplicably drawn, another unreasonably hostile, it's because you are not just a person to them. You are a mirror. And mirrors, Jung would say, are dangerous things. In the human psyche, there lives a silent twin, a hidden collection of instincts, impulses, and truths we'd rather not face. Jung called it the shadow. It is everything we deny, repress, or fear within ourselves. Most people spend their lives keeping it buried, pretending it doesn't exist. But when they meet someone whose aura radiates depth, authenticity, or inner stillness, that buried content begins to stir. You unknowingly awaken their shadow. It isn't that you're doing anything special. It's simply that your presence, raw, unguarded, psychologically real, acts like a tuning fork for the unconscious. The energy you emit doesn't conform to the superficial niceties that keep society comfortable. It vibrates with truth. And truth, especially inner truth, provokes anxiety in those who live behind facades. Think about it. When people look at you and feel uneasy, it's rarely because of who you are. It's because of what they sense within themselves when they're around you. You remind them of the emotions they suppress, the ambitions they've abandoned, the courage they lack. They might admire you, yes, but admiration and resentment often share the same origin. Unrecognized potential. That is the paradox of having a rare aura. You attract people who are subconsciously drawn to their own unlived lives reflected through you. But when they cannot integrate that reflection, they defend against it through gossip, distance, or misjudgment. Their mind whispers, "It's safer to misunderstand you than to see themselves." This process is ancient, almost archetypal. Humans have always projected what they cannot own. The mystic becomes the heretic. The visionary becomes the outcast. The quiet soul becomes the strange one. Jung observed that when an individual steps outside the collective's unconscious agreement, when they begin living from the self rather than the persona, they inevitably trigger projection. You stop mirroring what society expects, and instead you reflect what society avoids. That's why people might accuse you of being too intense, too private, or too much. They're really saying, "You make me aware of something I'm not ready to face." It's not rejection, it's avoidance masquerading as judgment. Let's make it concrete. Imagine a friend who always seeks validation, who thrives on being the center of attention. When they meet you, someone who doesn't chase approval, who seems comfortable in silence, they may first feel admiration, even fascination. But soon envy creeps in. Your self-containment exposes their dependence. Your authenticity challenges their performance. They may start misreading your calm as superiority, your boundaries as coldness. But deep down, their discomfort is not about you, it's about the mirror you hold up. This is why rare auras rarely find peace in crowds. You can feel when someone's reaction to you is not about you at all. It's about the part of them that your existence awakens. You sense it in subtle glances, tonal shifts, the way people laugh a bit too loudly or look away too soon. You've learned to feel the emotional distortion before words even form. Philosopher Soren Kierkegaard once wrote, "People demand freedom of speech as a compensation for the freedom of thought which they seldom use." In your presence, people feel the weight of thought, of introspection, of the soul's demand for depth, and it terrifies them. They'd rather speak loudly than think deeply. They'd rather label you than meet themselves. But here lies the difficult beauty of the shadow dynamic. Every misreading, every projection, every misunderstanding is also an opportunity. It's an initiation into discernment. You learn to see not just others' projections, but your own. To navigate between what belongs to you and what doesn't. The more conscious you become of this dance, the less you absorb from others and the more you transform misreading into mastery. So, when people misjudge you, it's not a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that you've become a living mirror. And mirrors, though lonely, are sacred. They remind humanity of what it refuses to see. There comes a moment in every rare soul's life when they stop asking, "Why don't they understand me?" and start realizing, perhaps they were never meant to. It's not resignation, it's revelation. For those who carry uncommon depth, misunderstanding is not a punishment. It is the price of authenticity. When your aura is rare, you often walk through life with a sense of quiet estrangement. Even among friends, even in laughter, there's a subtle distance, as if you're living one layer deeper than everyone else. You observe what others overlook. You feel nuances in tone, unspoken truths in glances, shifts in emotional atmosphere that no one else notices. It's like standing in a crowded room and hearing the faint echo of a symphony playing beneath the noise. You live attuned to it, but few others even know it exists. That sensitivity is both your superpower and your solitude. Because when you perceive the world in such layered dimensions, your very perception separates you. The conversations that others find satisfying feel hollow to you. The ambitions that drive them feel mechanical. You crave something deeper, authentic connection, meaningful exchange, a meeting of souls. Yet those moments are rare, fleeting, fragile as a bird's heartbeat. Carl Jung understood this ache intimately. He once said that loneliness does not come from being alone, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important. The individuated mind, the one that has seen beyond masks and illusions, finds few places to rest. You try to express what you see, what you feel, but language fractures it. People nod politely, yet their eyes glaze with incomprehension. You realize you're speaking a dialect of the soul most have forgotten how to hear. That realization can feel devastating at first. You might question yourself. Am I too much? Too strange? Too distant? But slowly, a deeper truth reveals itself. Your solitude is not a defect. It's a refinement. Solitude becomes the sacred ground where your inner world unfolds freely, unfiltered by misunderstanding. You begin to see that being misread by the world is the soul's way of protecting its depth from premature exposure. In solitude, your thoughts take root. In silence, your intuition matures. You begin to sense that your aura, your energetic field, is recalibrating not to the expectations of others, but to the pulse of something larger, more cosmic. You are learning to belong not to society, but to existence itself. Still, the loneliness hurts. There's no denying it. Some nights, it feels like you're watching life through glass, seeing everything, touching nothing. The world hums around you, but you move through it like a silent observer. You want to connect, to be seen for who you truly are, yet every attempt seems to lead to more misinterpretation. It's tempting to dim your light, to blend in, to make yourself less so others can feel more comfortable. But the soul cannot unlearn its own truth. Once awakened, you can't return to the shallow comfort of conformity. You were not designed to fit easily into the collective. You were meant to stretch it. Your energy, rare, intense, honest, is not here to be understood. It's here to be felt. And while few will truly understand you, those who do will see you entirely. They will meet you not with curiosity, but with recognition, the quiet sense that your presence speaks the same ancient language as theirs. In time, you realize that the loneliness you feared is actually a kind of grace. It strips you of pretense, of dependency, of the need to be constantly mirrored. You stop performing for understanding and start living for alignment. The very solitude that once felt like exile becomes a monastery of the soul, a place where you commune not with others, but with the essence of being itself. Philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer captured this paradox beautifully. A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom. For it is only when he is alone that he is really free. To be misread is to be freed from the tyranny of perception. To be alone is to find your true resonance. And to accept your rare aura is to begin the lifelong pilgrimage from loneliness to luminous solitude. There comes a time when the pain of being misread transforms from a wound into wisdom. At first, every misunderstanding feels like a cut, sharp, personal, unjust. But as your awareness deepens, you begin to see that misunderstanding is not an attack. It's an initiation. It's life teaching you to master perception itself, to discern where others end and you begin. You start noticing something extraordinary. The very energy that others project onto you can be alchemized. The misunderstanding, the judgment, the quiet suspicion, they become raw material for transformation. What once drained you now feeds your depth. Instead of reacting, you observe. Instead of defending, you transmute. Like a psychological alchemist, you turn the lead of misinterpretation into the gold of self-knowledge. Carl Jung described this process through the concept of individuation, the integration of the unconscious into consciousness, of shadow into light. When people misread you, they're unknowingly offering you fragments of their own unconscious. Every assumption they make about you, every emotion they throw your way, reveals something about them and, in turn, something about you. You learn to see their projections not as insults, but as messages. They're showing you what the collective fears, what the human psyche hides, and what truth does to fragile egos when it walks into a room. You realize, too, that being misread is evidence that you're no longer wearing a mask. The more authentic you become, the less legible you are to those who still live within performance. Their confusion is confirmation. You no longer fit within the archetype society uses to simplify people, the rebel, the saint, the cynic, the dreamer. You are becoming whole, and wholeness defies categorization. Consider this: when a river first carves its path through stone, it meets resistance. The rock pushes back, shaping the water. The water pushes forward, reshaping the rock. Misreading works in the same way. It's resistance that sculpts your flow. The misunderstanding you face forces you to refine your expression, to clarify your essence, to move with even greater intentionality. It polishes your energy until what remains is unmistakably yours. And so, you begin to respond differently. When someone distorts your meaning, you let it pass. When others gossip or question your motives, you remain still. Because now, you understand that misreading says more about the reader than the subject. Each false interpretation becomes a mirror for your detachment. Each judgment teaches you where your boundaries truly lie. The chaos around you becomes your training ground for equanimity. You stop fighting to be understood and start mastering the art of inner clarity. And something miraculous happens when you do. Your aura stabilizes. What once fluctuated under the weight of others' projections becomes serene, grounded, luminous. People still misread you, but now their confusion no longer disturbs you. You've become what Jung might call a self-regulating system of the psyche, a consciousness that feeds itself from within, not from external approval. This doesn't mean you become detached or cold. It means you begin to radiate differently. Your energy, once restless from trying to explain itself, now carries quiet authority. You embody what the mystics called the peace that surpasses understanding. Not because you are understood, but because you no longer need to be. The philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." When you stop thinking in reaction to others and begin thinking from the still point within, your reality changes. You begin to attract people and experiences that reflect your evolution rather than your past. You stop orbiting misunderstanding and start emanating meaning. In this stage, you move from victimhood to mastery. Misreading becomes your crucible, the heat that tempers your essence, the friction that reveals your brilliance. You are no longer shaped by others' perceptions. You are shaped by your response to them. And that response, born from consciousness, is the beginning of true power. The rare aura no longer needs validation. It is validation. It exists as its own evidence, uncharted, unbothered, unafraid. There comes a moment, after the long pilgrimage through misunderstanding, solitude, and transformation, when you finally see what all of it was for. Every misreading, every false story told about you, every silence you endured, it was never punishment. It was preparation. You were being refined for clarity. Your rare aura was never meant to blend in. It was meant to illuminate. You begin to realize that your difference, the very quality that once made you feel alien, is your message to the world. You were never meant to speak the common tongue of conformity. You were meant to speak the subtle language of presence. Your existence itself is a vibration, a frequency that communicates something beyond words. Truth, depth, authenticity, being. Those who can hear it are drawn to you not because of what you say, but because of what you are. Jung believed that every individuated person becomes a living symbol, an embodiment of consciousness itself. When you reach this point, you no longer represent only yourself. You carry the pattern of something archetypal, the seer, the healer, the bridge between worlds. Your energy begins to awaken others, not by persuasion, but by resonance. Your very being becomes a mirror that helps people remember who they are beneath the noise of their masks. The irony, of course, is that you no longer need to be understood for this illumination to occur. The light you emit doesn't demand comprehension. It simply exists, steady and unthreatened. Those who are ready to see will recognize it instantly. Those who are not will continue to misread it, and that's perfectly fine. The flower doesn't apologize to the blind for blooming. You start to notice that the same people who once avoided your depth now return quietly, drawn not to your words but to your stillness. They may not know why they feel safe around you, but you do. You've learned that true power does not come from explanation. It comes from alignment. You radiate coherence, and coherence heals. At this stage, your rare aura serves a purpose greater than self-protection. It becomes an offering. You move through the world not to be seen, but to see. Not to be understood, but to understand. You become the calm in the storm, the silence in the noise, the still point in the spinning wheel of human confusion. And because you no longer seek recognition, you become paradoxically magnetic. Your energy, once misunderstood, now attracts truth where before it attracted projection. There is, of course, humility in this realization. The rare aura is not about superiority, it's about sensitivity. It's the soul's willingness to stay open in a world that thrives on numbness. It's the courage to feel everything, to see beyond appearances, to live authentically even when that authenticity costs comfort. You realize that the very misunderstanding that once wounded you was the fire that purified your perception. You no longer curse your difference. You bless it. The philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "The one who knows others is wise. The one who knows himself is enlightened." Through the long journey of being misread, you have come to know yourself not as an idea but as experience. You've learned to live without external mirrors, to draw meaning from within. And that truly is enlightenment in motion. When people misread you now, you smile, not with arrogance, but with compassion. You see their confusion as the echo of your own past battles with identity and belonging. You understand that everyone is on their own journey toward integration, and that your presence may be the spark that begins theirs. So you keep walking, luminous and unhurried, carrying your rare aura like a lantern in the dark. You no longer try to convince, to prove, or to explain. You embody, you radiate, you are. And in doing so, you fulfill the quiet prophecy of every misunderstood soul before you, that one day, what was once misread will be remembered as wisdom, that what was once seen as strangeness will be recognized as sensitivity, and that the light that could not be named will finally be felt. Your aura is rare because it is real. And reality, in its purest form, has always been misunderstood, until it becomes the truth the world can no longer ignore.